Welcome to Pixel Therapy, the video game podcast where we look at the games we play through the lens of the player, where what you play is just as important as how you play it, and where emotional intelligence is a critical stat. I'm your co-host, Jamie, pronouns she, they.
And I'm your co-host, Spencer, pronouns they, them.
And this is Pixel Therapy. Folks, we are very excited. We have a special guest with us today who I'll be introducing to you all in just a moment. But first, we're going to start out, as we always do, with our Patreon shoutouts. This is our special thank you to everyone who's subscribed at our Patreon name in the credits tier. So that's a very big thank you to Genevieve, Lindsay, Pimhatai, CV Mess, Ava, and Alexis. Thank you all so much for your continued support of the podcast. We're also in the midst of a Patreon giveaway right now. So everyone who is subscribed to our Patreon, whether that's a free or paid subscription, if you're subscribed by Friday, May 3rd at midnight, you're going to be eligible for a drawing to win a free Steam copy of Little Goody Two Shoes, which is the game we're going to be talking about today, and which has kindly been provided to us by the developer Astral Shift. So if you're just hearing about this offer now and you're not currently a subscriber on Patreon and you're interested in being included in the giveaway, go to patreon.com/pixeltherapypod and sign up anytime before that May 3rd deadline, and you'll have a chance to win. Free subscribers get access to our weekly schedule posts and other streaming and recording updates, and paid subscribers get access to a monthly bonus episode of the podcast for just $2 a month. So we do hope you'll come check us out over there, and hopefully you'll sign up and get a chance to win. We'll be reaching out to the winner via Patreon by Sunday, May 5th. So come over there and check that out. Get in there. Throw your hat in the ring. If you're looking for other ways to support the show, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. And you can also check out and subscribe to the Pixel Therapy Pod YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@pixeltherapypod. And you can catch us there streaming our Let's Play series, Pixel Therapy Plays, live on Mondays and Wednesdays at 8. We actually did a spotlight session stream of Little Goody Two Shoes that you can find over there on the YouTube. So if you want to see some gameplay, you can go check that out. And of course, after all of those things, know that no matter how you choose to engage with us, we appreciate you being here all the same. All right, it's time to get cozy, pull up an armchair, feel free to lie down on the couch, and let's talk about our feelings. Spencer, let's introduce our guests today.
Yes, let's.
We're very excited to be here chatting with Kira, the lead artist and co-director at Astral Shift, the developers behind the gorgeously terrifying Pocket Mirror and now Little Goody Two Shoes. Kira, thanks for joining us today on the Pixel Therapy Podcast. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Feeling great. How about you guys? Thank you so much for having me.
So good.
Doing good,
We're so
yeah.
happy to have you.
Yeah.
Across time zones and oceans, we are connecting on this virtual studio.
The wonders of the internet.
It really is a miracle. Sometimes for bad, but this is one of the good times. So we're going to be talking a lot about Little Goody Two Shoes today. But before we get into that, we just want to get to know you a little bit. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, how do you spend your time?
Oh my gosh, I don't have free time. I'm just joking. So I have a cat, a baby cat. So, my free time is all over the place. I need to pay lots of attention to her. But yeah, of course, I do love to play games in my free time as well. And to draw, yeah, that's my main hobby. And actually what I do professionally as well. But yeah, I do love to draw.
That's awesome.
You're amazing at it. So.
Yeah, you are very good at it. I'm sure we'll be gassing you up quite a bit about that today, I imagine. Do you consider yourself a gamer?
Oh my gosh. So that's an hard question. I think so. But again, what's a gamer really, right? To be fair, I know that I play less games nowadays, mostly for professional reasons, because I have to be involved in, gaming all day. Mm-hmm. So I do play games in a way to, be acquainted with what's being produced nowadays, and also, to get the sense of what the other developers are doing as well. So that's basically the same. But what I mean is that, yeah, I do play less games nowadays. However, I do love playing, more cozy games like Animal Crossing, all-time favorite. I do love it. But also, I also really enjoy games like Resident Evil. So I'm a little all over the place, you would say. Just whatever, makes me happy, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing all of those influences coming into your games
That's
here.
true, right? Actually.
It shows.
Yeah. How did you actually get into doing art for games?
Oh, so well, this also ties in a little bit of how I started doing games in the first place. So it was back in 2014, or even earlier, if you will. But so back in the day, there was this huge craze of like RPG Maker horror games. I don't know if you guys were into that, but they were very popular in the day. Especially Humaniki was like such a huge game. And then it came Eve, The Witch's House, Mad Father. All these games were making a buzz on Tumblr specifically, which was where I was and I was a teen. So was definitely all over these games. And I started thinking, wait, I draw fan art of these games. Why don't I make my own? You know, like because RPG Maker was so accessible and also something very, practical and easy to use, like basically no coding whatsoever. So everyone could like try to do a game. So I think that's what sparked my interest for making art for video games. So together with some friends, we decided to try our luck and do our own RPG Maker horror game, so Pocket Mirror. And eventually it released in 2016. It was a total passion project. So we were doing it after classes, very informal, Skype chats. So, that was the time. And eventually it became something much bigger than we anticipated, really. The game got around 500,000 downloads, and we amassed a lot of, people that really liked our stuff. So we were like, oh, okay, maybe this has a future, it's not only like a fun little project that we did on the side. So that's how it started, really. And now I'm here.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Let's do a quick intro on the game, Little Goody Two Shoes, that we're talking about today. And then we'll have some more questions here. So, quick intro. The game is a 90s inspired horror narrative adventure. Came out in October 2023 on Steam, Xbox, PS5, and Nintendo Switch. I personally played it on PS5. Spencer, I'm assuming you were Steam Decking it up over there.
Steam Deck, yeah. My best friend.
Yeah, your best friend, the Steam Deck. The game won the GLAAD Media Award for an outstanding video game, as well as excellence in visual arts at the 2024 Independent Games Festival. So congrats on both of those.
Thank you.
It's set in this like hand-painted, by you probably, fairy tale environment chronicling the tale of Elise, a vibrant and confident young woman dissatisfied with her lot in life as a maid of all trades, hoping to escape the sleepy town she's always called home, and coming to terms with what she'd be willing to sacrifice and how far she's willing to go to get the life she feels she deserves. Kira, what was the tone or the vibe that you were looking to create with this kind of mix of horror, romance, storybook fantasy? I think a lot of the marketing refers to it as a phantasmological horror, which I definitely had to Google. We had no Webster's dictionary that one. But yeah, so what was the tone or vibe that you were going for as you were creating the art and making this game?
Oh my gosh, everything at the same time, I guess. So it was a mix of things, right? Our marketing team was like, how the hell are we going to promote this game? And I get them, honestly.
Yeah.
The way you were describing the game, I was like, yeah, that's very that. I couldn't have put it better. It's an art to explain game, right? So it was definitely a weird mix of genres. And, it was a lot of fun concepting all of these things, but then making sense out of it, we even ourselves had a hard time explaining it. So in the end, bless the marketing team, they did a great work, making it easy for ourselves. But yeah, the tone was definitely, we did know that we wanted to make something very fairy tale-ish and dreamy, right? But at the same time that it could be spooky and even, I don't know, like scary even, right? Not necessarily just spooky. So that was definitely the tone we were going for. Something that could subvert the cuteness and like wholesomeness of a fairy tale, right? Which also ties back to like how the original fairy tales were. They were very cautionary, but also very spooky and even scary beneath. So that was definitely our starting point, but then we just started building on top of it with lots of likes and wants and needs, and it ended up being what Little Goody Two Shoes is now. Yeah,
that's great.
That's such a great point about how original fairy tales and old storybooks are actually pretty messed up. Like,
Mhm.
like when you,
Yes.
as a kid, you listen to it and you're like, oh, it's like a story of this. Like, I'm thinking of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It's just a little girl doing some fun things and stumbling through someone's house. But when you look underneath, it's like, that wasn't a good example of one's really dark undertones, but even like the original Cinderella or the
Hansel
original
and
Sleeping
Gretel.
Beauty and Gretel. These are
Yeah.
like some really scary cautionary tales. So
Exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. That cautionary factor was really sometimes very spooky, right?
yeah. Childhood is really defined by fear in a lot of
Oh, for
ways.
sure. Yeah,
Oh, we
definitely.
just don't want kids to go in the woods. That seems to be
Yeah.
like a
Don't go
big
in the woods.
stay home. Don't go in the woods by yourself. Seems
For
to be a
sure, for
big part of
sure.
it. But I definitely got the like classic. Hopefully you will take this as a compliment. Like classic Disney vibes in the
Oh yeah,
art and
definitely.
the music, like the
Mhm.
songs that like play as you're walking around town and stuff with the like cherubic voices singing in the
Oh yeah,
background.
yeah.
It definitely struck that tone really well. So I think y'all did a great job with that.
Oh, thank you so
Yeah.
much. Actually, that was something very, very fun to come up with because so right off the bat, I did not draw those backgrounds. They are beautiful, but that was Pedro, our lead artist. I'm merely the lead artist. I only do characters, merely.
Oh, merely the
But
lead.
also I
Okay.
am the creative director for the game, right? So I was
Mhm.
very involved in the music process too. And
Mm.
something we wanted to make sure is that both the soundtrack and the visuals marry like in this very nice way, right? And that you feel like everything belongs to the same package. So thank you for noticing those little ad libs. We really wanted them.
Yeah.
They do feel classical indeed. And yeah, Disney was definitely a big inspiration. We wanted to bring that very classical fairy tale aura and atmosphere to this game as well, while mixing in some 90s anime elements. It worked out, I guess.
It all hit. Yeah. Well, I even recall, were there moments with actual like live captured film? Like I felt like there were certain objects or certain moments where it looked not like it was drawn, but like it was like a photograph or video taken. Was that
Yes, that is true.
a
That is
thing?
true. So, for example, in one of the game's insert songs, Elisa's insert song, actually, we do have like an art doll that was created by one of our artists, Winfred, and it was like a stop motion footage that we wanted to include.
Yes.
In a way, we wanted to make all these different styles blend together and make something unique and different, and also that you could feel some more artistic intent in this game. So that was
Mhm.
our intention with that for sure. Yeah, it was very
Mhm.
fun also to do.
Yeah, no, I love when games sort of push the envelope of what a game is, like how we define a game, and also like surprises the player in terms of what is happening visually or what's possible visually. Like that really blew me away. Like if anything, I'm someone who does not like horror games. I get very scared, and the way that the game balanced periods of insanity with like these really bright, visually decadent, just gorgeous visuals, like it kept me going. Like I was like, I want to keep experiencing this. And so kudos to you for making me a
Oh,
horror
thank you
game
so
player.
much. Thank you so much. Really means a
Oh
ton.
my gosh. So again, just a bit more on the influences. Personally for me, I really love this, what I felt was this celebration of like 90s shoujo anime. Like I definitely got Revolutionary Girl Utena vibes, especially in the relationships that Elise has and Sailor Moon and stuff like that. And I think this is something that you've commented on, and even earlier in this conversation, you mentioned like anime influences. Um, what do you think makes that era of like 90s shoujo so inspirational? Like what do you love about that time um of anime or content that you found so inspirational?
So I think I'm really, really biased because I grew up during that time. So I watched all these shows when I was younger, and I was always feel like, oh, I want to be them. I want to be that girl.
Yes.
You know, that's what I felt. So this all feel very authentic to me. Those characters, those heroines were very, authentic and always bright, and they always had a positive message to share, which I feel like looking at nowadays shoujo scenario and also even magical girl shows, I feel like there was something lost that was very authentic back then, specifically Revolutionary Girl Utena. I think that show is like one of a kind. Definitely hard to recreate for sure, but
Yes.
the way those themes um, were explored, right, and also how these characters navigated hardships but always overcame them in such beautiful ways really inspired me, and as an artist and also as a person, I believe. So I guess it's something very specific about them, right? Not only that, but the visuals are amazing. I do love the style too. It's very expressive, colorful, bright, art lines, like very cute. And that's definitely something we wanted to bring into Little Goody Tissues as well, because it's such a striking visual that, feels nostalgic. And Little Goody Tissues also plays a lot with the nostalgia factor of things. So I feel a lot of people can relate to this to a degree or another. But yeah, those shows were all amazing, very huge influences, both in my artistic career, but also in our game as well. So yeah.
I feel like all queer people need to watch Revolutionary Girl Utena just to
It's a need. Yeah.
understand where you came from.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Like there's just something about it's like the unapologetic femininity and magical girl aspects, as well as the chivalry and the kind of like old school like knight in shining armor. But she can be a woman, damn it. And we're not even gonna like make it. It's like I feel like when I look at similar animated shows today, like sometimes the feeling I get is that the queerness has to be explained or that space has to be made for it. But I felt like Revolutionary Girl Utena was so ahead of its time in like
Definitely.
it was never a question or a negotiation. It was just like, this is who this character is, and I need to go
love
watch it.
For sure, for sure, for sure. And like all these shows also add this very present concept of beauty, like in its most unapologetic sense, right? Like it's just beautiful. And everything is also so romantic, and the way that the characters express themselves is so unique. And like, yeah, just like you said, there's no space needed for these characters to happen. They just exist and they are just like that. And that's very, very inspiring. I could also say like Magic Knights Warriors also shares some similarities. Lots of, like there's lots of animes from that era, specifically from Clamp, and also, of course, Utena is definitely the one. But yeah, that they share all these similarities that are very unique to them, and that's definitely something that we also try to do our best to bring into Little Goody Tissues. We try to be just our most original selves. So hopefully that transpired a little bit.
Yeah, let's take this opportunity then to talk a little bit more about the story and the characters, if that's okay. So for folks listening or watching who maybe haven't played the game yet, or just seen materials about the game and haven't actually dug in, the story is about Elise. Like we said before, you play as her as the main character. She lives in this outside the woods of a very small town of Kieferberg, which is a town that's very set in its traditional ways, I think, as you see in a lot of small towns. She, as we mentioned before, works doing a lot of little odd jobs around the town to make money. But even still within the town, she's kind of viewed as an outsider. She was sort of adopted by an older woman who lived outside of the town who has passed away. And now Elise is trying to make her way in the world without her mother figure there, who is her strong connection to Kieferberg. She has three friends that show up in the game that are also love interests: Freya, Rosenmarine, and is it Lebkuchen?
Yeah,
Lebkuchen? Okay.
that is fine.
Okay. I feel like I only heard it said
It's
like
such a
one
hard.
time.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
So Leb is, which is what she's often referred to, is a nun, basically, with the church, very religious. Freya is kind of like a small town girl. Her dad's like a pillar in the community, and she's, I don't know. I found her to be the most comparable to Elise, except she actually lives in town and is from the town. And then Rosenmarine is a newcomer to the town, a kind of traveling stranger that Elise takes in after finding her in her, like, hiding in her shed, right? Isn't
Right.
with her goat flock.
That is true.
Yeah. So, but as the story develops, there's these rumors, there's strange occurrences happening. The town is convinced that there's a witch nearby. And Elise specifically finds out that there's this mysterious figure in the woods who will grant any wish if he is found. And the visitor brings him these 3 sacred gifts of flesh. It's the tender flesh,
Nectar.
the sweetest nectar, and the good company. Real creepy tradition. Some real creepy.
Your standard
Just
gifts.
it's just immediately the alarm bells are like, this thing's a demon, right? Okay.
Yeah.
But Elise really wants to get out of the town. She really wants to pursue a life of riches, and to not have to work as hard as she does, and to just be accepted. And so this is a very tantalizing prospect to her. So then you play as Elise as she goes on this journey of romancing one of her friends and deciding whether or not she's going to bring these gifts to this entity in the woods and seek her future. So, Kira, could you tell us more about like the development of Elise as a protagonist and what kind of shaped who she was as a person and why, as the main character of the game?
So just like you said, right at the beginning, when the game started, Elise is feeling very lonely and frustrated. She lost her only pillar, really, her granny, Holla, by the way. I know the names are hard to pronounce at times, but we do try our best too. We're not German either.
Yeah.
So, but essentially she's feeling alienated, right? She lives in this community, but she's also very detached from it. Not even like in only the the social sense, which she definitely doesn't feel included, but also if you look at it, like there's a distance between the village and the place where Elise lives, right? She lives in the peaks of Kieferberg while the village is way down there. And we also wanted to make this, this distance significant in the sense that you need to travel across it to reach the village and get to the social parts of the game. And then Elise is all alone by herself in the mountains during the nighttime, and even, just doing her things. And it's another way to convey that she feels this distance between her community and herself, right? So yeah, she's in this weird place where she's not a child for sure, but she's not truly independent either, because she needs to do all these odd jobs to get her livelihood, really. And the way that she progresses in the game really is shaped by her relationship. So this game is definitely focused around this social aspect, where the way that you reply to all these people and the way that you decide to succumb to their needs or not definitely do shape your own story. And that's another thing I wanted to say here, is that there's no canon ending. We do know that one of the endings leads to Pocket Mirror, but this is all of these stories that you can achieve with Little Goody Two Shoes. All these different endings are happening sometime in like the multiverse. I'm just kidding, y'all. But what I mean is that they are equally as valid, all of them, in the sense that they could have happened, right? So essentially, we want the player to be able to shape and see Elise grow as they have complete control over her decisions, in a sense, right? Again, I think all the girls also, all the romantic interests end up shaping Elise one way or another, most of the times for the best. I think with all of them very different, Elise brings out the best of herself. And in the end, I feel like even the more heartbreaking endings, the player gets to see a definite growth from Elise. She starts from being this very frustrated and, ill-tempered girl to become someone that, really values what she does have, which is something that at the beginning of the game she doesn't, right? She undervalues everything and just wants more. And in the end, she ends up understanding that she already had a lot of good things going on for her, and maybe risking everything for the sake of a dream is not always the answer, right? It's not necessarily just like a very cautionary approach that we wanted to take, but rather something that makes you think a little bit, because I feel all of us at times feel like we could definitely sacrifice something over something bigger, right? But again, maybe we already have a lot of good things. Our new good things are just by our side. So it's a way to look at things with a little bit of more optimism, I guess.
Yeah,
totally.
We had a question in the chat from Meta Magician, who says, question for Kira about the soundtrack. What made you pick Diana for the voice of Elise? She's perfect.
I know, she definitely is, isn't she? Here's the thing, I was a Diana fan. So I've been listening to Diana's covers and her original songs for a long time, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she would fit Elise so well. And I just happened to not be following her on Twitter, like I was crazy or something. So I just hit that follow button and she followed me back, and I was like, no way, stop. And I was like, wait, maybe this is a chance. And I was like, okay, hi, I love your stuff. Would you like to be the voice of our character? And she was like, hell yes. I was like, no way, this is crazy. This is like the perfect fit. And that's how it happened. And Diana has this very, like very unique voice. Like her voice is definitely fit for like anything and everything 90s. Like she does sound like one of those anime opening ladies from that time period.
Yes.
So she was a perfect fit. She did the perfect Elise, I think.
Yeah, my partner, we both have our video game setups in the same room, and so I'd be playing Little Goody Two Shoes on the TV, and he's playing something. He's playing Stardew Valley right now, so he's like playing Stardew on his TV. But just the lines that Elise would say, for goodness sake. So they're like, yeah, we're both going around the house being like, something will happen. We'll be like, for goodness sake.
Marie. Yeah, all the time. So funny.
Yeah, it's
what,
great.
in the Lord's name.
In the Lord's name.
I love it. It just adds such a great, it just added just a little bit of spice to Elise too, and really made her character pop and come through. I really got a strong sense of who she was very quickly in the game. I remember even when we were doing the live stream, just how quickly it was like, oh, I understand who this person is really clearly. Yeah.
It's the old timey, what the heck?
Yeah, absolutely. The way the story progresses with this cozy small town life, it really had me thinking about how small communities can often only be comfortable for the people who conform to them. And Elise is this, as we said, she's this outsider in more ways than one. And there's the whole, you have a mechanic in the game where Elise can do things that cause suspicion based on the way she responds to dialogue with villagers. So we haven't talked a lot about the gameplay, but it's everything is there is some voice acting with the key lines, but a lot of the text is presented on the screen. You're engaging with villagers and having conversations. You're doing chores. You're going on dates during the daytime, and then at night you're going into the woods and all hell breaks loose is essentially the general flow of the game. But during the conversations with villagers, you can raise and lower suspicion. And there's also a girl named Muffy. Well, is her name Muffy? She's got about 50
Molly,
different names.
Millie, Melly, Mandy, Murphy.
But she's a little pain in the ass who follows you around and spies on you and threatens to tell on you to the other villagers about the things she sees you doing. But unless you give her food. Which is super expensive, $30 for a bowl of soup. I was like, the economy in this game.
Yeah, crazy,
inflation is wild.
Inflation is crazy. Oh my god.
But yeah, so you have to basically bribe Muffy with food to keep her off your back. And there's a suspicion meter in the game that will go up or down based on the way you're interacting with villagers and based on whether or not you're bribing Muffy to not tell on you in your activities to your neighbors. But I found even in the dialogue options with villagers, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but sometimes which option to choose that was going to lower or raise suspicion felt arbitrary, and it kind of just made me not in a bad way. It like kind of increased the tension of those conversations and made it feel more like it does in real life sometimes, where especially as someone who isn't totally gender conforming and, you know, maybe sits outside of the norm in a lot of ways, interacting with people who have a set idea of what is normal behavior and expect you to conform to it can feel like an arbitrary guessing game of like, what do I need to do to make you like accept me as a human and feel like I fit in? I don't know. That was I don't. Where's the question there? What do you think of that take? Was that intended in the tension that you created with the suspicion system?
Oh my gosh, yes, 100%. So we wanted everyone to feel like they were walking on eggshells, like, oh, wait, is my suspicion gonna, go nuts or something? So that was definitely something we wanted to do. It's not arbitrary, but you really need to get into these people mindset, which is crazy, right? Like, you don't think like that, hopefully.
Yeah.
And yeah, in a way, like, we wanted to portray like this small community, and insulated communities always have this factor where everyone knows each other, everyone knows everything about each other, and there's already this existing pressure and like social expectations of who you should be and what role you should have in this community specifically, right? And Elise is nothing like whatever they want her to be. She's very raspy. She's, you know, she gives these witty replies as well. So she's definitely not the little goody two shoes that they want her to be, right? And I feel like we already gave this disadvantage to the player where they can't be themselves replying to these people, right? You have to navigate through the lens of Elise. So you need to pick the best of both evils, let's say, and see which one is like not so bad, I guess. Because in the end, this is a role-playing game and you role-play as Elise, right? But yeah, for sure, like we do have a lot of interactions that might feel like there's no good reply here. What can I say? And that's exactly it. How do you navigate where nobody, is sensible to your cause or cares for you even? So we wanted to portray how Elise feels and what kind of replies she would realistically be able to give to all these different people, right? And you can sense there, while these characters are like NPCs, let's say, all of them have a different personality and they do behave differently around Elise, and she does as well. So it's this kind of like exchange between all these characters in the community. And well, of course, there's Muffy as well. She doesn't fit too well either if you look at it, right?
Yeah, it sounds like she has a pretty rough relationship with her aunt as well.
Her aunt is not nice for sure, and the little kids are not too nice for her either. So she has an hard time, I guess. But again, she also has this need to snitch on Elise and try her best to fit in her community by snitching and saying, oh, she's doing this, so I guess it's not easy for anyone.
Yeah, it's like a lesson in community solidarity and how we can either turn against each other. Sometimes
exactly.
we turn against each other instead of the real enemy, which is groupthink.
Oh, for sure. Actually, we had a system in the game that eventually we had to cut down, mostly because of production, but also because this game had a lot of challenges with including new systems that we didn't see so often in other games, and especially in the genre that we were doing, right? Which was the reputation system. We wanted to also include like some dialogue events that could raise your reputation, not only your suspicion. But essentially, if we look at it, they were kind of the same system. We're just like lowering suspicion, but raising reputation. So we ended up trimming it down. But the suspicion one was very necessary because it does play a bigger storytelling role, where the player really feels like their answers do matter, and that the way that they interact with this community can actually get them to have like serious outcomes, right? So
yeah. Honestly, like in 2024, as a openly queer and trans person living in a small town, I sometimes feel like when I'm engaging in conversations with people in my community that I have to pick and choose what I say and how much of myself and my true feelings I want to show in order to be safe or accepted. And so, like, that was a surprisingly deep mechanic for me because this is such a queer game. Like, it really felt kind of like a gamification of how it can feel sometimes to be navigating these real life spaces. I think for me, the character of Lebkuchen, Leb, at first, I was like, oh, like she's a nun. Like, can I trust her? She's so closely aligned with the church. And as we all know, the church doesn't always look favorably on queer people, especially in this time period that is sort of being fantasized in this story. It's like, being a witch could also be related to being queer or not wanting to get married or fit the traditional role of a woman. And I quickly found that, like, when I talked to Leb, she was often the person who was the most direct, or who seemed to understand Elise the most. And she herself seemed to be someone who, yes, she's a nun, but she's not particular. Like, she even says at one point, like, I'm no saint. Like, this isn't even who I am. Like, I'm playing a role. I'm wearing a mask too. And it really just, it was those early conversations where I was like, oh, there's a lot going on here. Like, we're all playing a role to participate in society, but what's going on underneath? And it was just, I really loved the all of the characters in this game. But we could talk about that for hours. Let's talk a bit more about the mechanics that we've been teasing at, for folks listening or watching. Just a quick review of kind of what's going on in the game day to day. The day is broken up into 6 segments. And as Elise, you can choose to work, you can spend time on dates, you can also try to figure out this mystery surrounding the woods. You come across some mysterious notes, and you might want to take time to figure out what's going on there. And then you have health, stamina, and sanity, which you are managing through consuming an appropriate amount of bread and other foods in order to stay healthy. And throughout the day, you can engage with these various activities. And then the last hour of the day is the witching hour, which creates these survival sequences that require lots of running and strategic movement. So we're moving more from visual novel style gameplay and little mini games, like the jobs that you can pick up for folks. Like, for example, you can pick apples for someone in town, and it will open this arcade style mini game with simple controls where you're trying to catch apples in a basket, things like that. It moves towards very real running and danger and escaping at night. And so you talked a bit, Kira, about kind of the mix of genres and mechanics that the team was trying to bring together. Were there any challenges in bringing so many different genres together into one game?
Well, many challenges for sure. First of all, because we didn't have like a direct comparison of a title, right? While we were very inspired in the core by RPG Maker horror game titles, because that was our starting point, right? That's where we started too with Pocket Mirror. We wanted to do something similar, but we wanted to expand on the genre and bring in more things that we like. So like dating sim, like life sim, and all these things that we really enjoy. And also puzzle solving as well, right? So all these mechanics, in theory, they should work together, right? They are very similar in their core, but in the end, it all comes down into, since, for example, when we are in the woods sequences, so during the nighttime, it's more about like puzzle solving and doing all this very, like you said, like these chase scenes and all these things. And then by daytime is more story heavy and more character oriented. So the balance between all these different things was something very hard to achieve, because sometimes the game felt very slow for multiple hours, and then very, like fast paced and like, and require the player to have all this, solve all these puzzles and avoid all these dangers in a very short amount of time. So we had to balance these things by creating, for example, those, let's say it's sort of a side story, like side quest that you can explore further within the town, all these different mysterious notes and things. So we wanted to also bring a little bit of that danger to the daytime as well. So that was challenging. It was something that we had to do a lot of like play testing and also ask players and friends what they honestly felt about the game, and to keep a little bit of tension. And that was also achieved by including again the suspicion system, which actually helps to keep the players on their toes and not feel too relaxed, because that was also something that we wanted to make sure came across, right? It's not necessarily like Elias doesn't feel relaxed all the time, so you can too. And that was definitely one of our starting points for sure. Yeah, but it was challenging marrying all these different genres together and make sure that they played seamlessly. I don't know, you tell me, did it work out?
Honestly, yes. Like I never felt bored or like I didn't have anything to do or that I didn't know what to do. And despite managing all of these things, health, stamina, sanity, and the suspicion, it never felt like too much. Like I was really impressed by how balanced everything felt. Jamie, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I would agree with that in terms of the intermixing of the elements. I do. The nighttime sequences are really fucking hard. They are like shockingly so. Shockingly so. Do you want to say anything about that? Because like I was so, the first time I like got insta killed by something, I was so taken aback. And the game tells you right up front, save often. And
yes,
I don't need a game to tell me that twice. Like I will save every single time I see a save point. So I was doing that, thankfully. But yeah, the first time that I went into a witching hour sequence and like just got murdered so fast, I was really surprised. I was just really shocked by the difficulty spike that happened in those nighttime sequences, and sometimes frustrated. What was behind that decision to make those sequences so challenging and so dramatically different from the daytime?
First of all, same. I'm a terrible gamer. I'm not saying you are. I'm bad at my own game.
I'll take it.
I'm bad at my own game.
No, I can play games for sure. And here's the thing. Everyone else in the team could do it. I was just like, this is hard, y'all. They were like, no, it's kind of easy. And I was like, no, it's not.
Oh my God.
But we did our own balancing. In the end, it resulted like that. But yeah, definitely. I think there's definitely like a difference between, the silly little games that you play during the daytime, which are more, like a fun challenge, right? Of course, like this actually impacts you long term if you don't get good grades on those mini games, because you need that money, right?
Yeah.
For the nighttime sequences, there it is, because we wanted to make it so that, yes, they are challenging, but if you have enough resources, you can definitely progress through them, at least like find your way through them, right? Because here, the thing we wanted to do was that you can't fight back, so you can only avoid danger, and that's something that also makes the whole game feel more real in a sense. Because if you were to run from, I don't know, a giant horse with a skeleton head, I don't think you would be trying to punch it or something, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, that definitely would have been immersion breaking.
Elise is just a girl.
Yeah.
She's suddenly just kicking ass. That'd be a very different game.
For sure. So all this hopelessness is also something that really, I feel, encompasses very well in the horror genre. Like when you feel like you don't have a way to, fight back, and you can only avoid danger or try to run away from it, everything becomes way spookier, right? And you're always trying to be careful and look around on your surroundings of what you can do to make your life easier. So that was the main idea behind making things a little bit more challenging during the nighttime, for sure. But totally agree. I think some bits are definitely hard. That horse chase, I can't do it.
Oh my God.
It was the one that always got me was the
the birds?
the birds in the trees.
Yeah.
I know there's like,
Yes.
you're trying to watch and like not move when they're
Yeah, but
shaking,
there's
and
a
I
thing-
could
I
never
know,
get the timing
okay.
right. No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
the timing is hard. You're right. But yeah, at first, like I was like, oh my gosh, no way, people are not getting this one, because I was kind of worried, like a lot of us were, because we always wanted to make something clever and new and try not to do, you know, the same old puzzle that you've seen 100 times.
Mm.
But when you're trying to come up with different puzzles, it's always this game design process that is very iterative, right? You're always trying to get someone to test it and give you feedback. So in the end, we kind of found a balance that worked good, because it was way harder before. I don't even know how it was. Like, I can't even explain you. But yeah, that was the gimmick, trying to look at which tree was not moving and you should move quickly to that one and then progress to the next one. So in a sense, like trying to make you move fast and not think too much, right? So in a sense, that was the idea behind that one. I know, sorry, it's tricky.
No, like, definitely no need to apologize. I certainly felt it was immersive to have the, you know, the characters that appear that kind of walk you through the witching hour. There's the crow and there's the snake, and they're constantly telling you, like, show me your perseverance, show me your dedication. And here I am, like, dying over and over again at the same thing. So it was very, you know, it made me feel more in Elisa's shoes, as I was also being like, okay, I guess I'll show you my perseverance as I reload for the 7th time because I suck.
You know, we had these talks internally, like, how do you want a player to play this game? And we would be like, so I want a player to have like 2 hearts by the end of this puzzle, and then they need to heal after this. So that was our thinking, you know, like we wanted to craft this experience that we know would punish the player enough. So, and then we would also give the player items, right? There's lots of vases to break, and you can get a lot of free stuff, I would say. Who doesn't love a freebie? But, you know, in the end, we wanted to make this experience feel painful to a degree, right? Because these woods are both beautiful and scary. They are both, you know, like they're tempting you to go further, but also they harm you in a very real way, right? And Elise never, I think she always leaves those woods a little bit more traumatized than the last time, right? And that's supposed to be the case. Like, these woods actively are designed to harm you and to make you, you know, spiral into something that is not healthy or good. Like, they're a vicious place, really. So we wanted them to feel aggressive to that degree, right? But at the same time, having like underlying beauty in them, be it visually or by the soundtrack as well. So, you know, a very romantic and dark experience.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think he nailed it. Let's talk a little bit about the romance options. So what inspired you to create a Sapphic dating sim element in the game?
Oh my gosh, so most of us in Astral Shift are queer, so this was very natural to us, you know. And I think most of the characters just grew up to be like that naturally. We didn't think a lot about it, to be fair, but we felt like, all right, these characters already play such a close role to Elise. Why don't we elevate it to the next level and make them romanceable? You know, like, it would only make sense. So that's what we did. We made their relationship, you know, bloom into something bigger, really, and to explore how each of these girls could shape Elise to be a different person. Essentially, they all do shape her to be a better person in the end, I think. And you know, since they are all very different too, I think it was interesting to explore how these different relationships could also have a meaningful impact in Elise's decisions by the end of the game. Yes.
Who's best girl?
Freya, 100%.
Same.
That's Freya. Well, I'm Team Freya from the start. Here's the thing. I designed her to be the best girl. I was like, she's got to be the prettiest. She's the cutest. I'm just kidding. I know everyone loves Lev Cohen here. Like, a lot of we made a popularity poll, and everyone was like, Lev Cohen. I was like, no way, I'm gonna do another one. Let's see if Freya wins this time. And Lev Cohen still won this time too. And I'm like, y'all have no taste. I'm just kidding. No,
oh my god,
yeah. All of them are great. I can't talk about it. I'm toxic. I'm saying.
No, I mean, I romanced Freya, and I was very happy with that decision. I like their dynamic a lot. I liked how the story ended when I went for the. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but my ending I liked that I got with Freya. I know there's other bad ways that things could go. But I was intrigued by Lebkehen. I think she's a really interesting character, and I think her dynamic with Elise is very interesting. I was similar to Spencer said, I was like just suspicious of her if you go back and watch our Let's Play from a couple weeks ago when I was first engaging with her, I was like, nope, I'm not dating a nun.
No
like,
way.
no, thank you. I'm not
No
into
way,
that.
Holy Homer, my God.
But then like as the game progressed and she's giving Elise bread each night, she seems to like be the one person who's clued into what Elise is doing, but also wants to protect Elise. Like she knows Elise is up to something, but like trusts her and wants to like protect her. And I don't know, they just had a really interesting dynamic in the way that they seemed to really see each other and had a level of honesty to their relationship there from the beginning that I think like you build with Freya or you could build with Rose and Marine, but like Leb and Elise kind of already have some sort of like history there that I didn't feel the same with the other characters. So I understand why people like Leb for sure. Who did you romance, Spencer?
I had a couple files. I romanced Rosenmarine and Leb. I just, like Jamie was saying, I just felt like she really understood and saw me, and I liked that. With Rosenmarine, she just kept saying all this stuff about fate, and like I was like, I just want to know what's going on here. Like, do you know more? Do you know more than you're letting on? So it was kind of more like curiosity drawing me towards Rosenmarine, and kind of I'm a sucker for like star-crossed lovers type of stuff. So I was like, I need to know what's going on here. But like we're sort of alluding to, like each one of these characters has something different that they bring to the table, and something unique that they bring out of Elise. And I guess that kind of leads us into our next question, which is, what, as you were developing these romantic partners for Elise, like what did you feel made each relationship unique? Like what made each person special in terms of the dynamic that they had with Elise?
Right. So, I think most of this was because our writer is amazing and Ermine really, but we had all this constant, discussions about what the characters would be like and what they would bring to the table, and we both were very in sync with all our ideas. So we knew that we want each of them to be completely different from one another, right? So I think, like, starting, for example, with Freya, I think she's this very sweet and caring person, right? Which really catches Elise off guard, because Elise is not like that at all, at least at first, right? She's very, she has this protective shield on her that she won't open to anyone, and especially to Freya, because they had this sort of rivalry, one-sided rivalry, really, mostly Elise's. And this blooms into something that is a very beautiful friendship and eventually a very beautiful love. I think so too. And romance, I mean. And I think Freya does bring like this newness of, like being able to open yourself to someone that you usually wouldn't, or to not have these preconceptions about someone and actually let yourself be your most honest and real self to someone. And I think that's the beauty of their relationship. Whereas with Lebkuchen, for example, they're all-time friends, right? They're childhood friends, and they already know everything about each other, or at least they think they do. And what they find out is that they don't know everything about each other, and they share like very similar struggles. None of them feels like that place belongs to them, and they want to see an escape one way or another, right? And even for someone like Lev, that is very reliable and very sure of herself, Elise finds that there's also this, this side of her that she protects and that she wears a mask, like you said. And I feel like when this happens, Elise turns around and becomes like her emotional support as well. And this is another face of Elise that you don't see often, her being reliable instead of relying on Lev. And so it's this, symbiotic relationship where they actually do help each other, becoming a better person and achieving their own dreams. And with Rose and Marine, it's all about, falling head over heels for someone that you just met the other day, and they are so different from you. Everything about them is different. One is very meek and like,
AKA the lesbian
candid.
experience.
Yeah, and the other one is like a force of nature, right?
Yeah.
But they just work so well, and it's like moon and sun, I guess. And yeah, it's about, so both of them are strangers in a sense, and also the way that Elise feels about her community also relates to the way the community perceives Rose and Marine. So like she feels like she's strange to these people, and then Rose and Marine herself is a stranger to that community. So in a sense, they are in the same status, at least to Elise's in Elise's mind, right? She feels like, oh, we're just the same. They don't get us. And this is a blank plate for Elise to work her way and to be her most authentic self, right? She can be whatever she wants with Rose and Marine. And so this opens a lot of new beginnings for her, I feel. So, yeah, and it's just like a very good way for her to explore herself. And Rose and Marine really gave her that space, I think.
For real, though, you hauling immediately with the girl you just met outside is like quintessential Sapphic romance. We had a few questions from folks in the chat about, speaking of these romantic entanglements. SimLover468 says, I guess if it's possible to try to answer this without too many spoilers, they ask, what happens to the other girls not romanced by Elise at the end of the game? And following up on that, Spirit P asks, is there anything in Freya's story specifically that had to get scrapped? Because based on her ending, it seemed like maybe there was more that could be explored there.
Oh, all right. So I guess essentially each girl goes on with their life. I don't know. Essentially, we're focusing definitely on the relationship that Elise has with that character at that time, right? So I think like all these characters have unresolved issues that essentially they overcome with Elisa's help, and vice versa. Elise also overcomes their own issues with the aid of these characters, and like their romance heals all these wounds, I guess. So I guess they keep being wounded, but you never know. I guess in my mind they date each other, right? Nobody gets sad in this ending. But just kidding. But in the end, no, nothing was actually scrapped in Freya's ending. I feel like her ending is very self-explanatory, really, right? She had a big dream, and Elise also had a big dream, which was to be rich one way or another. And I guess she was, because Freya was making lots of success, and Elise was just by her side, making sure her business. Oh my gosh, sorry, I spoiled everyone.
It's okay.
Anyway, they were rich.
Well, they've got to get to that ending first. There's 10 endings, y'all.
Yeah.
That is true.
There's another great question from Meta Magician who asks, did you foresee any split or reaction from the fan base with the Sapphic romance focus in Little Goody Two Shoes compared to Pocket Mirror's more traditional, straightforward horror?
Right. So I think like from the start, Pocket Mirror itself already has some of these elements. It's not a Sapphic story, of course, because we're talking about, oh my gosh, I can't say this actually because it's a spoiler once again, but it's more of a tale about this character, right? And her own self. But with Little Goody Two Shoes, we wanted to take it a little further and also, do something that represents ourselves too and that we love wholeheartedly. So there was, of course, like a fear of a reaction, but at the same time, we're like, if you just don't like it, you don't like it. It's fine. There's multiple games out there that don't have like girls kissing, so you can play those, I guess. But this one is special because of that, right? And also, we've seen this in visual novels before, and games that heavily sexualize Sapphic relationships. And our game isn't anything like that. At least we don't like to think that way. And we just wanted to make something that felt very honest to ourselves, and also that we would really enjoy to play and read. So in a sense, I guess that was our intention from the start. We knew that there would be people that wouldn't vibe with it, but again, just like I said, there's tons of different games out there that definitely, fulfill whatever these people want to play. So yeah.
No, I thought the relationships
And in the end, like a beautiful love story is always beautiful no matter who it is, right? So I
Truth.
think, yeah.
Absolutely. I did feel like the relationships felt super human and real, though. I think like props to the team and the writing on all of that
Props to
because
EB. She's a great writer.
yeah, no, it was really great. And I wouldn't say that it's not sexual because something definitely happened to me when Freya picked up her dad. So
Oh my god!
It's like,
Yeah,
oh,
when she showed how strong she was, I was like, oh,
yeah,
hello.
that like
Yeah,
the drawing of her just like holding Gustav. I was like, oh, I didn't know this was something I was into, but I
Pick me
am.
up, mommy.
Thanks for that. Let's talk a bit about that art. If you're ready to change gears a little bit. Um, when we talk about the mashup of all of the different genres, there's also a ton of mashing up of different art styles. And I think it's really to be commended how much everything like blends seamlessly. This game is I told you we were going to gas you up about this. And I know it wasn't just you, but the whole team, like, kudos. The art in this game is gorgeous. Just completely visually arresting all the way through. I was especially enamored with the UI designs, which I think, if I read the credits correctly, you did a lot of the UI work, right?
That is true. That is true.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about, like, I mean, yeah, obviously you guys were really inspired by Disney. We talked about all the inspirations, but there's just so many details. Like, what was your process like designing these things and making everything feel so handmade? It just seems like it would have taken a jabillion hours to do all of this. So yeah, what was your process, and how did you do all of that kind of like overlay work of bringing the different styles together?
So, first of all, thank you so much. But talking about
Thank
the
you.
UI,
I mean, it was a pleasure to watch this game.
No, it was a pleasure also to work with all these very different talented artists that had a lot to bring to the table. We had a lot of mix of styles, be it in the woods. Each of them was done by someone different, so they all have different, characteristics and materials too. Like we used clay to make the first foods with the butterflies, and then soft pastels for the second one, and then watercolors finally for the snake one. So all these different techniques really have a storytelling component to them as well, right? You can feel the dryness in the crow woods with those soft pastels, and then how watery everything is with the watercolors. So we let the materials speak a little bit as well, like the mediums. But talking about the UI, so my thought process was something along these lines. Usually the UI is something that you feel is usually very, invisible in games nowadays. You almost don't feel it. It's just there to fulfill like a practical purpose, right? And something I really appreciate in older games, specifically games from like the Sega Saturn era and also PC 98 games, is that all these UI elements were very decorative, very maximalist, and I really do love those. I think those were complete eye candy and beautiful to look at. So I wanted to, elevate the UI to something that could be a little bit of a storytelling piece as well, right? Because it changes according to the daytime and also the way that you progress in the storyline with the characters. So I wanted it to be meaningful. And since our game design choice was to make, the game a little bit retro in the sense that you need to go to the menu to pick an item to use it. So sort of a throwback experience in that way. I wanted it to be worthwhile, right? So you're not navigating these like blue screens or something, but instead you're navigating through something that is beautiful and it feels very tactile and real too. So that was the idea behind that UI, that it's very like maximalist and makes you take your time to appreciate it. So I'm so happy you mentioned it because it's something that was completely hand drawn with watercolor paints and gouache paints as well, you name it. We just did a huge collage work that felt like a moving scrapbook, and that was the idea behind it.
Well, I as a UX and UI designer in my like day-to-day life, I have to say I have chills hearing you say that the intent, what, like, you're so right that in a lot of ways today we're attacked by UI menus at every stage, and they are supposed to be invisible, utilitarian, completely like invisible toolkits and not part of the experience of the game. And the fact that you're saying you want them to be felt, to be seen, and to add to that immersion. I love that. Thank you for that answer. That was really
thank you
that
for
was really
enjoying it,
awesome.
because I feel like this can be like a divisive point. Like a lot of people will say, well, that's fine, they're very pretty, but like after 5 times I'm done with it. And that's fair. Like I think that's totally fair. But at the same time, I'm that person that likes to navigate through menus. And a lot of games that I'm drawn to naturally use a lot of UI elements, be it like games where you get to decorate your home, or be it games where you have lots of choices and look at the log. And if these things can be pretty and like make you feel like, that make you appreciate these little moments, I think they become worthwhile, right? So yeah, that was our thought process.
Another shout out from the chat. Meta Magician again says, shout out to Hika for all the beautiful hand-drawn background art. I would totally buy posters of them. Can we buy any of this art anywhere?
Yes,
oh my gosh,
Kira,
we did not have any. Oh my gosh, I wish you all. It's so hard. We live in Portugal. It's hard over here. You don't want to know anything about our milling system.
That might be a whole different podcast.
Oh my gosh, it's a whole ordeal. But we did do a giveaway just recently with posters signed by both me and Ika. So
wow.
Very if you want them, congrats to you. But yeah. Well, maybe one day we can look into that for sure. I would love to.
The art is too beautiful to not be shared in more ways. That's not to pressure you, but it's just I'm just stunned. And like you, I loved opening up just the menus and looking at them and seeing the details and like ink and paint. Okay, I'll stop.
Thank you so much.
I'm definitely someone who has complained about having to go into menus in other games. Just most recent memory, like Starfield, comes to mind of like, oh my God, why am I sitting here in a menu for 10 hours? I had no complaints about jumping into the menus in Little Goody Two Shoes, and it never, even after I had saved my game for the 5,000th time, I was not upset. It was, it was very quick and snappy, and just beautiful to look at, and very much part of the experience of the game. So y'all nailed all of that. Let's see, we've got lots of questions in the chat. What do we got here? Oh, another one from Meta Magician. They're asking about we talked a little bit about the music in the game. They said, will we ever get official lyrics for the songs? The community is dying to know. I'm going to pre-apologize for my pronunciation here. Kerbis Marken, the Pumpkin Carnival song?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Those lyrics are in German, right? Well, first of all, if we're getting official lyrics, I can't make promises in here, you all. I can't speak for my team. We'll try. Here's the thing. I believe like in Apple Music, at least the lyrics are in there. In some songs, at least like the vocal insert songs, they do have their lyrics. If I'm saying a lie, I'm so sorry. But we did try to set it up. I know this. I was looking at like our producer doing it, and I was like, okay, it's working, cool, fine. If it's not, I'm so sorry, everyone. But they do have official lyrics, yes. We can try to look into that, but no promises made. And Kerbis mentioned, I know, let's try, let's see what we can do about it. There is some gibberish in there too, so it's not, I don't know.
Sounds like the community should come together and create some.
Yeah, why don't you all try?
And Kira will tell you how accurate they are.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I love to lurk in YouTube comments of our soundtrack. It's great. I love to do it. I'm always reading all these comments. And there, in that song specifically, there's someone in the comments that almost got it perfect, right? I'm sure like they did take their time, but they got it very close to the final one. There's like a line or two that they couldn't decipher, but they're so close. Come on, guys, you can do it.
Yeah, you can do it. We believe in you. You heard it here first. So as we're winding down a bit on our time together, we wanted to close out talking a bit about the themes and impact of the game. And so, for me, I think a lot of what we talked about already, there were a lot of themes, at least for me, around being an outsider, especially in a rural town, and this feeling of otherness that I think a lot of us who identify along the LGBTQIA plus spectrum can identify with, around this feeling of otherness in some spaces that you can't even really articulate. Like, I think, of course, Elise is very haughty, and she's got on these bright red shoes, and she's got this like kick-ass attitude, and maybe that set some more traditional folks in town against her already. But at least for me, I often felt that I was navigating the town and was just always treated with a bit of suspicion or a bit of disdain just because of who I was. So I think that was a big theme for me, and something that resonated deeply with my own lived experiences. But there's also this theme of sort of not, how much trust do we want to put in wishes or instant gratification, rather than working maybe if it's more slowly, but creating and building what we want out of our lives. Choosing reality, even if that's a harder and less glamorous choice, versus the fantasies that we build up in our heads. Like maybe these dreams that we have that are more fantastical might not even be what would really bring us happiness if we opened our hearts and minds to other possibilities of what life has for us. And so I think, like, I just found myself really sitting with these things and really feeling like kinship with the game, and feeling like the game saw me. Like, this was a very fantastical, romantic story, but it was also just so grounded in themes that, again, I think a lot of us in the queer community would resonate with. And so with that, the question for you, Kira, is, of course, if you have anything you want to add to that, that's totally
no,
welcome.
like you said,
but
I wouldn't say it so well. Like you put my game better for real. You put my game better than I do.
Thank you. But like, who would you say you made this game for, if anyone in particular?
I would say we made this game for our 14-year-old selves. You know, like it was definitely like a love letter to our, adolescence and our teenage years. Back in the day, if I found this game, I think I would be all over it, and I would be drawing these characters. So that was definitely a starting point, like what would I love to see if I was 14 years old or 16 years old? Something that would change me, And I've played a lot of games that did change me back in the day, but I felt like they needed something else, just a little bit of something to make them more special. So it's more of a love letter to all these things that we really loved. And I'm saying we because it's definitely a team effort, right? And yeah, I think like that was definitely the person that we made the game for. And turns out a lot of people feel the same. So apparently we made it for a lot of teenagers out there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if this game was out back, I'm a 90s baby too, so if this was out back when I was on Tumblr, the fan art would be out of control. I would be obsessing.
Exactly. We're like, no, yeah, we were thinking that exactly. Oh my God. Like if we were, if this existed back in the day, yeah, that was the starting point for sure.
Jamie, I just wanted to ask you, were there any like themes or takeaways that stood out for you?
I mean, you articulated that otherness one being a big one for me that I really picked up on pretty early in the game, and just yeah, I feel like it's reflected too in we already kind of talked about all the three love interests, but I feel like that otherness is really interestingly reflected in each of the love interests too, and how they deal with that feeling. Like Freya clearly feels like Freya and Leb very specifically feel like, as people who are already in the community, that they have to keep up this very specific facade around how the community sees them, and they put a lot of pressure on themselves to maintain that and to be these pillars that they feel like they need to be in the community. And then Rose and Marine coming in as an external person and not being willing, or whether she understands that she should conform or doesn't, she chooses not to conform at all, and then is like immediately seen as even more suspicious than Elise. I thought all of that worked really well. And then, this is not the, I don't know, maybe the deepest theme, but like just the the horror and the creepiness and the feeling like you're pursuing something that is dark and scary, like just the vibes. This game has great vibes. The daytime vibes with the the very Disney-esque, the music and the lightheartedness, and then as the sun sets and things get real creepy and real scary and very emotionally intense, I just all of that came through really, really well and was very affecting. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Props to you all for making such
an
an impactful game. We have a couple more questions in the chat. First from Ali Origami says, if I'm allowed to ask a question, what did you name the demon? Why did you name the demon what you did? Ozzy is such a strange name that I never expected from him.
All right. I just thought it was cool.
That's okay.
Like, what do you expect? Here's the thing: like, if you go on Ars Goetia, so like that book from King Solomon himself, I guess, that lists all these different demons. They do have some weird names, like some goofy names even at times. Like there's a demon called Amy, and I'm like, all right, Amy, I guess.
Every Amy I know.
So
I've known a demon called Amy.
So we have like Aziel and Murim, and then we have Ozzy, and he's the big guy, like, so I think that could be kind of funny. A lot of people were also looking into some of our assets in the game because like there's this huge one that says Ozymandias something, like it's a look, that's not his full name. I was just doing something over there, but that was actually a nice thing to point out. Like I love when like people who played our game point out all these little details. Like they do care for these little details, and that's interesting because we did put a lot of them intentionally, but others were just like not it, but they caught them, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be more careful next time. Maybe I should think further about it. So that was something funny. Thank you for pointing it out.
Absolutely. And then another one from Mint Azural, I believe. Wonder if there is anything more planned for Little Goody Two Shoes. I love it so much, I have to say. They wrote. So yeah, what's next? Is there more Little Goody Two Shoes, or are y'all working on something different? Is there anything any teases you can share?
I can't disclose anything.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Well, we hope to see more.
Yeah, but we are cooking something.
That's good. That's good. Very exciting.
Let them cook.
Very delicious.
We'll let you cook. We'll let you cook. Well, Kira, thank you so much for joining us today. We really love the game. We hope people check it out. Time is up, though, for today's session of Pixel Therapy. Thank you, everyone who's watching live, for listening to the podcast after the fact. Thanks for tuning in. We hope that listening to our thoughts and feelings gave you some thoughts and feelings of your own. Kira, thank you again. How can people follow you, find you online, keep up with what you're doing?
On Twitter, mostly. It's the only social I'm truly active. I also use Instagram as well. So Kirarin in both with 2 N's by the end. Yes, you can find me there for sure.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank
you.
Nice thank you. Yeah, it was great. It was a great conversation. Really interesting to hear all your perspectives on things. And we'll include your socials in the description and stuff for the episode everywhere, so people can come find you and follow you. Folks, if you want more Pixel Therapy, you can come check us out at patreon.com/pixeltherapypod. And again, remember, if you sign up for a subscription, free or paid, by Friday, May 3rd at midnight Eastern time, you will be included in our giveaway of the free copy of Little Goody Two Shoes on Steam that was generously provided by Astral Shift. Thanks to you and your team, Kira, for that again. It's very cool.
Get it.
Yeah. Spencer and I will be live streaming video games on Monday and Wednesday this week and every week at 8 p.m. Eastern over on the Pixel Therapy Pod YouTube channel. So go over there, come over here if you're here right now. Give us a subscribe there, ring the bell to get notifications every time we go live. And of course, you can also support the show by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts and following us on Twitter at Pixel Therapy Pod. That stuff is just as important, and we appreciate it just as much.
Finally, since we like to put our money and our energy where our mouth is, we end every episode with a recommended side quest. The past few weeks, we've been plugging and will continue to plug Operation Olive Branch. You can find them at tinyurl.com/OP Olive They're a grassroots collective effort to amplify Palestinian voices and their GoFundMes. So you can visit that link. We'll drop it, of course, in the show description. and the show notes, and you can visit tinyurl.com/OpOliveBranch to learn more or visit their Instagram page at Operation Olive Branch.
Thank you for that side quest, Spencer. Thank you, Kira, for your time again.
Thank
That
you
is our
so
show for
much.
today. Everyone go forth, run a story mission, level up some stats, and don't forget to hug an NPC every now and then, especially if it's Freya. We'll be back soon with some more Pixel Therapy. Bye-bye, everybody.